Hello Rebels and welcome back to my life. The topic of this video has already been talked to death by many people more qualified than me. As per usual, my voice is not the most important one in this conversation, so please follow the people linked in the description below. I don't want to be too helper-whitey about this, but I did want to offer some perspective on the Black Lives Matter movement and why it's not called the All Lives Matter movement, because whenever the Black Lives Matter movement tries to explain this, they are talked and shouted down. Following the death of an unarmed black teenager at the hands of a police officer, people started documenting and talking about an unbelievable number of police killings that happen in America every year with a definite bias towards black people. An online movement sprang up to start documenting and talking about these abuses, and they called themselves Black Lives Matter. And people began to jump all over that, saying, all lives matter. Listen, I already talked about this a lot in my feminism versus egalitarianism video, link in the description below, but people who say this sound kind of dumb. The Black Lives Matter movement never said all lives don't matter, and they never acted like it either, although you would think that they did because of this response. But America has been acting like Black lives don't matter, which is why the movement is called Black Lives Matter. All lives matter is one of those ridiculous, all-encompassing statements that's so general you can't even argue about it. It's like a politician's statement when you ask him for a specific point-by-point plan on what he's going to do about a particular issue, and he just says, I'm gonna save America. Responding to Black Lives Matter with all lives matter is like looking at someone with a broken leg and saying, well, all legs should be healed. I mean, yes, they should, but maybe fix the bone jutting out of her skin before she bleeds out. It's like looking at starvation in developing nations and saying, well, all children deserve to be fed. Yes, of course they do, but those ones are going to die tomorrow if we don't start doing something about it today. It's like looking at a corner store actively being robbed and saying, well, all corner stores should be free from crime. Yes, that is true, but you are using that argument to avoid doing something about the corner store that is actually being robbed by actual robbers right now. That's the key point here. All lives matter is usually used as an argument to shut the conversation down. It's not a way to promote or work for equality, it's a way to avoid doing something about an actual problem. That's why I usually refer to them as the All Lives Matter crowd, not the All Lives Matter movement, because there is no movement. They don't do anything. Too often these All Lives Matter people say that yes, they are against police brutality, it's just that it doesn't only happen to black people, and the Black Lives Matter crowd are saying that it does. And they are wrong about that. Nowhere was this more evident than in the case of Zachary Hammond, a 19-year-old white teenager who was shot and killed by a police officer in South Carolina when he was in his car but did not have a weapon. The very first people to speak out about this online were members of the Black Lives Matter movement after it was revealed in an independent autopsy that Hammond had been shot in the back, not while using his car to attempt to run over the police officer as the police officer had claimed. Meanwhile, All Lives Matter made no mention of the killing until the Huffington Post specifically wrote an article calling them out about their silence. At which point they said, how are we supposed to know about this case? You only just wrote a story about it and then just to attack us. But that argument doesn't hold any water because the Black Lives Matter movement had already been speaking about it for days. Their tweets were used in the report to prove how the All Lives Matter crowd wasn't doing anything about it. It boils down to this. Whenever somebody highlights oppression against any group in America, racial minorities, women, or whatever, somebody's gonna jump in and say, you're singling that group out, and therefore you must mean harm to the default, i.e. the straight white American male, which is not the default, another topic, another video. That response is nothing more and nothing less than an attempt to distract from the injustice that such groups face. It is a politician's cheap trick, a lazy hand wave by a magician to confound the viewer. And if a movement like Black Lives Matter is being targeted with special attention, isn't it about time they got special intention that was intended to help them, not to harm them? Thank you for watching, Rebels. An extra special shout out to my supporters on Patreon who make all of my YouTube videos possible, especially my sponsors. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!